Welcome to the Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel meeting for Wednesday, the 2nd of July. My name's David Crops and I'm the chair of the panel. Also today, we have a number of other members present, of course. Firstly, Cara Crayson, who's an expert member. Just indicate Cara, who disappeared off the screen, I think. Also, David Epstein, who's also an independent member of the panel, and Phil Young, who's a community representative on the panel. Just before I start the meeting formally, I'll just run through the role of the panel for a few of you, because I'm aware that this is probably your first meeting. Basically, the local planning panels were made mandatory by the state government for all Sydney councils back in 2018. The idea behind the panels is to provide an increased level of accountability and to provide some additional independent oversight in the development assessment process, particularly with developments that are controversial or sensitive, or ones that involve a real or potential conflict of interest for council itself. So what the panel does, it provides an independent and open forum for interested people and groups to hear and make submissions about development proposals that have been referred to the panel. And that's the public meeting we're holding now. It then moves on to consider and determine those applications or application modifications or reviews of applications that are referred to it. And then finally, we do have a role in making a recommendation to council on planning proposals, which are commonly called rezonings, or any other development matter that may be referred to us. There's a whole series of statutory rules that govern our operation through a code of conduct and operational procedures, and those rules can be found on council's website or on the State Planning Department's website. The process that applications go through when they come to the panel is that they're lodged by an applicant as per normal. The council officers move through the assessment process as per normal, and then they report to the local planning panel. And you would have seen a copy of the report to the panel on council's website. The panel then holds the public hearing that it's holding at the moment, and then undertakes an independent determination of the application. And we make them in camera, not in public. Now, by determination, that means that we, as far as development applications are concerned, have the power to either refuse an application, to approve it with conditions, or to defer consideration pending further information. One of the things that's really important to note is that the panel does not set policy. So we don't make the rules up as we go. We work within the rules, and those rules are provided by a legal framework and policy set by council, the state government, and the courts. As I mentioned earlier, we have 4 members, a chairperson, myself, a community member, and 2 independent expert members. The independent expert members have been chosen off a pool of people that has been determined through an expressions of interest process and a selection process that's been run by the State Planning Department. And the community representative is appointed by council, but they're not a representative of a specific community group. They're a representative more broadly of the local community and the community's interests per se. The process that we follow is that we receive a report from the council officers, and that's the one that's available on the website. We're also provided the submissions that have been made by members of the public, access to reports that have been made by the applicants, say specialist reports on fauna and flora, for example, in support of the application, and a range of other information. Armed with all of that, we read, look and think about that material. We undertake an on-site inspection, and that's usually undertaken from within the public realm, that is the street, rather than within private property. We hold a public panel meeting, and as I mentioned earlier, we hold a closed panel session to deliberate and reach a decision or a determination on the matter. A couple of things I want to mention. Firstly, is that the public meeting is an opportunity for you to make oral submissions. We've had an opportunity to read the submissions that have been provided, although in this case there's certainly a lot of them for the first developments being considered at Balgala today. It's not an opportunity for debate or to and fro discussion between the applicant and objectors. So it's an opportunity for presenters to make your views known to the panel, to reinforce what you may have said in a submission. I'd strongly advise you not to reread your submission, but really to pull out what you believe are the major points that you think the panel should consider. And that way the message gets through to the panel certainly very loud and clear. If there's another submittee that's saying basically this number of the points that you're saying, I'd recommend that you say, look, I agree with David, who has raised issues about height of buildings, setbacks, whatever, and my additional points are X, Y, and Z. That way you can focus your time on things that are additional, and you've also flagged that you agree with the previous speaker that we've heard. With your presentation, we've got a number of speakers today, a large number relative to normal. Please keep them to 3 minutes. I'll be quite strong about that today because of the number of speakers we've got. So stay focused on planning matters. We can't consider things outside of the considerations that we have to take as part of the development assessment process. We can't consider other matters. The public meeting is video and audio recorded. These recordings are being live streamed and they're also available afterwards on Council's website. Once we've deliberated in a closed session, minutes will be produced at the meeting, and once Council has undertaken a number of procedural matters, they'll be made available publicly, and that usually takes a couple of days. Could be up to a week, but usually shorter than that. That's a quick introduction to the panel and how the whole system works. We have a number of matters for consideration today. The first one is in 37 Rosebery Street, Balgala, which deals with the construction of a McDonald's restaurant, including signage. And the second one, which is a non-public meeting item, and it's a non-public meeting item because there's no one wishing to make any submissions on that, and also there's in this case there's not 10 or more unique submissions to trigger a public meeting, and that relates to modification of a development that's been previously approved by the panel, which is DA 2023/1869 for the construction of a residential flat building in Beaconsfield Street, Newport. Firstly, in beginning the meeting, I would like to acknowledge country as a sign of respect. The Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel acknowledges the traditional custodians on the lands upon which we gather and pays respect to elders past and present. I've received no apologies for this meeting, and all the panel members have lodged declarations of interest, indicating they don't have any conflict of interest. But for the public record, I'll just quickly ask each of the panel members to confirm that. Firstly, David Epstein, do you have any conflicts of interest in relation to this matter?
No, I don't.
Okay. Phil Young, do you have any?
No.
No. And Cara Crayson?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. And I don't either. Thank you very much. The minutes of the previous meeting were of the panel of the 18th of June, have been adopted by the chairperson and have been posted on Council's website. And I'll just note that the panel is now aware of that. We'll now move on to the first item, which is today, which is item 4.1, which is DA 2025/0132, 37 Rosebery Street, Balgala, which is for demolition works and construction of a restaurant, which is a McDonald's restaurant, including signage. That's been referred to the panel as it's the subject of 10 or more unique submissions by way of objection. I have quite a few speakers. As I mentioned earlier, if you can limit yourselves to 3 minutes maximum, that would be much appreciated. And I also have the applicant and their representatives available as well. So I will take the speakers in order that's on my list. That the list isn't alphabetical, I might add, and they're in no way listed in order of importance. So necessarily. So the first speaker I have is Adam Vidal. Adam, are you online, please?
Yes, David, I am. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, and we can all hear you okay. So please proceed.
Fantastic. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak today and panel listening in. David, my understanding is not to recite everything that I had already put through, but I want to focus on one of the most important components of my submission was the gridlock and traffic that this would represent to the Manly Vale Balgala community and area of Rosebery Street, Kenneth Road and Balgala Road. Already within Rosebery Street, there are a number of major businesses from Woolworths, Aldi, Bunnings, just to name a few that have a huge amount of logistics and trucks that are going down that street. It's a thoroughfare for the entire community from Fairlight to Manly Vale to Balgala to move through Rosebery Street. And I feel very strongly that adding a restaurant, well, I wouldn't even call it a restaurant, it's a fast food chain on the corner of Kenneth Road and Rosebery Street is going to cause significant, if not horrific, backlog of traffic, especially coming through from Balgala Road to Rosebery Street, where you've got the traffic lights and also the roundabouts there. I saw in the McDonald's second submission was to propose a roundabout next to the Woolworths and Aldi. I need to point out to the members that there is not only obviously a lot of traffic coming through there, but these trucks that are going down there for Harvey Norman, Aldi, etc., are going to cause more and more gridlock with that roundabout. And there's also a huge sand and rock distribution centre right where that roundabout's been proposed. I feel very strongly that the council, well, not the council, but the roads and traffic are not set up for the amount of traffic that's going to be put through Rosebery Street. I do have a lot of other points, but obviously I'm up to 3 minutes, and I'm sure there's other members that are going to talk about the pollution and the impacts to smaller businesses, but I'll leave that for the rest of them to speak on.
Great. Thank you very much, Adam. And thank you for sticking to time as well. The next person I have on the list is Jerome Eckerman. Jerome, are you online? I can't see your name there on my list. So I might move on, and if Jerome appears, that we'll bring him on. Sarah Garland, you're the next person on my list. I can see you're online. So hello. Sarah, we're in your hands, please.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much for letting us speak today, and good afternoon to everybody. So my name's Sarah. I'm here to request the panel reject DA 2025-0132. Just to be clear, I've got absolutely no problem with McDonald's as an organisation. It's just that the site where this proposed DA is for, it is just completely inappropriate for any fast food outlet. And no amount of modifications to the plans that were provided will make this site appropriate for a fast food chain. I'm speaking on behalf of myself and other residents in our building that were unable to attend today. I live at 76 Kenneth Road, and it's really good that we're doing this by Zoom today, because if you look, I don't know if you can see behind me, the blue building. That's the
just,
development
yes.
site.
Yep.
That's it right there. So we're going to be living right across the road from it. It's a footpath, 3 lanes of traffic, a footpath, and bang, that's the site. So I'm going to take the emotion out of it. I'm trying to be factual. So for all the people that live in this building, especially our unit and the other residents that face south onto that site, we will bear the brunt of every byproduct that this DA is going to, what it'll produce. So like Adam said, and I agree with everything Adam said about the traffic, but also we're going to be dealing with noise, rodents, antisocial behaviour, the litter, all those factors. The residents here are the ones that are potentially going to have to bear the brunt of all of that because we are so close to the development site. And as I said, it's just not an appropriate site. The biggest factor for us as residents here too, besides all those things, is that we all stand to lose a substantial sum of money from the value of our property. And for us, I can't speak on behalf of the other people in the building, but for us, for me personally, that could be financially catastrophic. And it has caused, the mere thought of it has caused so much stress, which you can probably appreciate. There is a new residential block that has gone in on the other side of the main road from us on Condamine and Kenneth, across from KFC. Now, the people that bought properties there, they've bought off the plan knowing that they're going to be living across the road from a fast food outlet. We haven't been given that choice. That choice has been, if this goes ahead, that choice is taken away from us. So I really want the panel to take that on board. I just wanted to speak very quickly about the numbers with this submission. There was a McDonald's that was proposed to go into Redfern, and it was rejected by Sydney City Council. They had a total of 269 submissions made.
Sarah, can you wind up, please? Because
yep,
you're
sure.
3 minutes up.
Absolutely, sorry. And we had 738. They had 1,100 signatures on a petition. We had 3,700. So just on behalf of everyone here, the residents, the ratepayers, just based on those numbers, it's very clear this development is not wanted in the neighbourhood. So I'm really hoping that the panel can see that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sarah. The next person I have on my list is Stephen McMahon. Stephen, I can see you're online, so in your hands, please.
Thanks, David. Hello, panel. Stephen McMahon, Town Planning Consultant. I'm representing the owners of 41 Rosebery Street in Mona Vale. It's SP 83232. They are to the north of the site, and where you just saw Sarah show you the view from her room, all of the south-facing apartments in this particular development will also look directly into the site and into the car park. That site where the residential flat building is located is zoned R3. The proposed development site is zoned E3 productivity support. And that zone, the objectives of that zone and the range of permissible uses are firmly directed towards attracting traffic and taking advantage of the exposure to Condamine Street, their highway service employment type sort of uses. The proposal is aimed at bringing people and traffic off Condamine Street and into this area, and it is an interface area between the E3 and the R3 zone. And that, I think, is fundamentally the problem with this proposal. It's inappropriately located. It's a highway use that seeks to bring highway activity, vehicles and people into a residential area. When you look at the objectives of the E3 zone, it talks about high quality architectural design, and no disrespect to McDonald's, and I'd go there as well. This is not a particularly well contributory feature to the architectural character of the streetscape. And the other objective of the E3 zone, as you're both all aware, is it talks about minimising conflicts with adjoining zones. You've got 720 objections to this DA, which is extraordinary considering its scale and what it's actually proposing. And that says to me that there is a significant concern and there's a significant public interest test here. You've also got an objection from the New South Wales Police. And I think there's enough evidence to say that with the weight of concern, with the studies and the environmental investigations that have been taken, with the police comments and with the scale of objection, that there is going to be a conflict with the adjoining residential uses. The recommendation in the officer's report is for refusal, and I'll just finish up by saying that I think that's an appropriate recommendation for this particular development, and I ask on behalf of the owners of 41 Rosebery Street that you abide by the recommendation of the officer and refuse the proposed development. That's my talk, David.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephen. The next speaker I have is Craig McLaren. I can see you're online, Craig, so we're in your hands.
Yes, thank you very much, panel members and others. I have written a couple of objections on behalf of those that, similar to Stephen McMahon, represent. So our assessments were on 13th of March, 5th of June, and also recently internally June 13th in response to revised modelling by Colston Budd. I would just like to state at the start that we support the council's refusal of the DA, particularly in relation to traffic impact. The key matters that we say are fatal to the application in relation to traffic and parking are 6 items. The first is inadequate assessment of baseline traffic conditions. Second is incorrect traffic generation rates. The third is incorrect application of passing trade vehicle trips, which also results in inaccurate traffic assignment. The fourth is incorrect post-development traffic impact assessment. The fifth is no assessment of traffic impacts as a result of the inclusion of both the Central Island and the removal of the roundabout proposed, as council no longer agrees with that facility. And the sixth item is the roundabout itself, but that's proposed at the Hayes and Rosebery Street Junction. If I just elaborate on those 6 points, the first in relation to baseline conditions, the modelling that's been prepared has not been adequately calibrated to baseline conditions. It's important that these calibration reports be done, and there's no evidence of any calibration. And this goes to vehicle queuing and phase sequencing, phase timing of the signals at Condamine and Kenneth. The second is the model itself, because it's inadequate, therefore it means that the baseline problems then have flow-on effects in terms of the further forecasting impact assessment. It's important that these calibrations be done, particularly where you've got a set of signals and a roundabout which is 90 metres apart. They're closely spaced, and both our model and Colston Budd's model do show that queues extend through the roundabout at Kenneth currently. On the
Craig,
approach to... Yes.
Can I just mention your 3 minutes is up.
Yes.
Can I just ask you just go through your remaining points as tightly as possible, please?
Sure. Thank you.
Chair, could I, given this is a key issue, could we
Yes.
just grant a little bit of extension of time to Mr. McLaren to go through these points?
I'm effectively doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'll try and be quick. The second point in relation to those key matters, incorrect traffic generation. This is an important aspect because the adopted traffic generation rate by Colston Budd is some 60 vehicle trips underestimated in the PM peak weekday and some 80 vehicle trips underestimated in the Saturday lunchtime period. I say this because the Guide to Traffic Generating Developments, or the new guide, Transport Impact Assessments, refers to site peaks and network peaks. For Sydney metropolitan areas, the site peak of McDonald's actually coincides with the road network peak, which has not been adopted by Colston Budd report. The third matter about incorrect phase, passing trade and traffic assignment, well, that speaks for itself, because if you've got the wrong assignments, and not only that, it means that the assessment is flawed. There are, when you actually drill into the details, there are actually vehicle trips that are lost in the assessment by Colson Butt. So it's inaccurate. The fourth matter about incorrect post-development traffic assessment, well, that goes without saying now, because the baseline was so poorly done that, and when we've corrected it by our own traffic modelling and traffic counts that we've done ourselves, it shows that significant queues extend along Kenneth Road, adding to a worsening of the performance of that side street. Transport for New South Wales obviously are concerned about Condamine Street, and they will make sure that the green time along Condamine Street is maintained, and they will not really give much more time to Kenneth Road. So queues will just continue to extend. Then in relation to the actual post-development traffic impact assessment, without, as I understand it, council no longer support a roundabout at Hayes and Rosebery Street. There is no traffic impact assessment before you, such that you can actually undertake that review. The application is for a median and a roundabout, and we say, and the last item, we say that the roundabout is not robustly tested in terms of swept path analysis for both the design and check vehicles that will actually utilise that roundabout. And it also will create unsafe conditions for pedestrians, particularly on the eastern side of the footpath, where there's a driveway going into premises. Finally, I'd just like to wrap up by saying I was involved in a previous case with McDonald's on behalf of the local council many years ago in a similar situation where there was a set of signals and a roundabout in a similar sort of offset, 80 to 90 metres from the signals in East Lakes, Gardeners Road and Racecourse Place. That was defeated through the Land Environment Court on traffic grounds for these reasons. It's the wrong location to have fast food where you have closely spaced roundabout with signals. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And can I just ask you a quick question, Craig? I noticed in the submissions there's two reports from McLaren Engineering, one that's dated the 13th of March and the second one's dated the 5th of June. They're
Yes.
the only two that you've done?
Yes.
Okay. And just for the panel members, okay, so just for referring to it later, the first one appears to be on page, it says page 19 on part of my PDF reader. The other one says page 1904. So you can look at both if necessary. And the other one, and the other one is on page 2309.
And the difference between those two reports, the original, the first one related to no median and no roundabout, but was basically a right turn in and right turn out.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one related to the revised application with a median and roundabout, such that traffic only turned left in, left out.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much for that. Can I also mention too, if those of you who are providing presentations, if you can stay online for as long as possible, that would be appreciated, because what I'll do is after we've heard from yourselves, I'll then ask the applicant for a response, and then I'll open up to panel members for questions. So if there is any questions of anyone, whether the applicant or objectors, then that's the opportunity for the panel members to ask those. So I just wanted to make that clear. So the next speaker I have on my list is David Corbenau, but I can't see David on my list unless he's using someone else's login. David, are you online? doesn't look that way. Okay. The next one is Rachel Shoup. Is Rachel, I can see there's a Rachel S. Are you online, please?
Yes, that would be me.
Okay. Rachel, in your hands, please.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
My name's Rachel and I've lived at 41 Rosebery Street for 14 years and I'm also the secretary of SP 8323. I firstly would like to say thank you for listening to me today, and I want to make it really clear I'm not against McDonald's, the brand or the food. I don't mind a cheeseburger and French fries myself. It's all about this location is just not the right place in the area it's in and the streets around. So in the 14 years that I've lived here, I've witnessed a lot of change in the area. Like I know, I think it was Adam already touched on traffic, so I'm not going to go into too much, but basically my own experience and what I've witnessed with the Bunnings, Audi and Woolworths coming into play is traffic has just skyrocketed. Frustration and tempers go crazy on the roads down there. People are screaming abuse at each other, blowing horns. I've even witnessed cars driving on the wrong side of the road to bypass cars that are queuing to turn left into Kenneth Road, to turn right into Kenneth Road heading north. I'm surprised like someone hasn't been hurt yet, to be honest there. So this goes on all the time. In relation to the recent Beeline car park and bus stop, with them being in the area as well, that's brought, unfortunately, groups of youths that are quite intimidating that like to hang out in those areas. So I feel that having the McDonald's there, that's just another place for them to hang out 19 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's also been some incidents recently with assaults to 2 people in our unit block by teenagers in this area. I've gotten permission for them to raise this because they didn't feel comfortable speaking themselves. Just to give you a bit of background, some of the yards sort of below where Sarah is, one of the ladies there had lots of rubbish thrown in her yard on numerous occasions. And one time when she went out there, a can of drink actually was thrown at her head. Another lady was physically assaulted and had to get an AVO against one of the teenagers. So antisocial behaviour is already a problem in the area. And I feel that this McDonald's location is just going to make this worse. I personally don't feel that safe anymore getting off the bus, whereas I used to have no problem doing that around the area at all. I would really like the panel to support the council's decision, along with the 738 submissions and the 3,719 signatures that were required on a change org petition.
Rachel, can I just mention,
yes,
sorry, Rachel,
sure.
your 3 minutes is up, so
Yep.
can you just wrap up, please?
Yes, I literally was. I had one
Thank
sentence, I think.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, this location is just not ideal for the traffic, the pollution, and the antisocial behaviour. So, you know, it's more suitable for a residential block or another furniture store. And thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Rachel. The next person I have on my list is Justin Shoup.
Yep, that's me.
Justin online? Okay, we're in your hands, Justin.
Cool. Thanks for letting me speak today. So I've lived in this building for 14 years, which is directly opposite the proposed site. So I stand here not just as a resident, but as someone who has built a life and a home and a sense of peace in this neighbourhood. And the proposal to build a McDonald's directly across the road from my house is more than a simple development. It's a fundamental threat to the quality of life that not only I deserve, but also the people in this area deserve as well. This isn't about snobbery or a personal taste. Of course, we all like a Macca's run. It's about the daily reality of living opposite a 19-hour fast food outlet and the constant smell that will infiltrate everybody's homes and make them unlivable. The noise from the delivery trucks, the late night car horns, the drive-through traffic, it won't just disappear on one day because it's going to be there every single day, and it's already a nightmare, as other speakers have raised as well. It will erode local people's health, our sleep and our sanity. And as Sarah mentioned previously around the property prices being significantly impacted by this development, a resident within our building tried to sell their property only a couple of months ago and had to take hundreds of thousands of dollars off the price of their property because they were in such a rush to get away from this development. Also, in terms of crime and antisocial behaviour, as previously raised by other people, the B1 car park has already brought in a whole bunch of antisocial behaviour, and the police are often called but do not respond because they are already at capacity. So adding a fast food outlet is already going to add to their stress and enormous workload already. Then there's logistics from the waste and collection vehicles, heavy delivery trucks. As mentioned, I think I've already mentioned the traffic volumes and clogging our streets. Also the vermin, that rats, seagulls and other pests that were already fighting from the B1 car park and KFC across the road, which litter is thrown around all over the place. And this will only contribute to that as well. And lastly, what value does it bring to this community? Absolutely nothing. Minimal job creation, and most of them insecure jobs. There's no meaningful support for local businesses or entrepreneurs, or creating a greater sense of community, and it does not align with the council's 2040 vision or 40-year vision as well. And it has no enrichment of our social fabric whatsoever. We are a residential community and not a commercial fast food corridor along a highway, and I urge you to reject this proposal for the well-being of every resident and for the future of our neighbourhood and the basic right to live in peace.
Okay. Thank you very much, Justin. And the next speaker I have is Sian Cadwallader. Sian, I can see you online. Yep.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Okay, I'll try and be quick here as well. So I want to share just a few of my concerns from my experience living on Kenneth Road. I live at 58 Kenneth Road. So that's between the Rosebery and Quirk Street roundabouts. So we all know that the traffic is gridlocked between these roundabouts and for the entire length of Rosebery Street at peak times and weekends and mornings and evenings every weekday, and the flow heading towards Condamine Street. Now, currently, pre-McDonald's, at these times when I'm travelling north, say to Brookvale or the Mall, I have to entirely avoid that road to Condamine Street. I can't turn right out of my driveway, so I go left every time, and I travel via the Harris Farm roundabout and via Pittwater Road. The proposed McDonald's would only add to this traffic congestion and broaden the peak congestion windows. This will cause tributary roads to become freeways, much like Kenneth Road has in recent years. The roads between Pittwater Road and Harbord Road, such as Corrie Road and William Street in North Manley, these are residential areas, increasing traffic-related hazard to these areas where families live. Essentially, what I'm saying is the increased traffic in these areas would impact residents from Manley, Queenscliff, North Manley and Freshwater, as well as Manley Vale and Balgowlah. So it's not just an immediate impact. My second point is the access to McDonald's. So the congestion on Kenneth and Rosebery Streets would impact actual access to McDonald's. I don't think that's viable at all. The congested area would become chaotic and dangerous, particularly for pedestrians with the increased traffic and all of the Woolworths loading trucks, etc. My third point is the suitability of site location. So this site is on the edge of an industrial zone and it's facing and diagonally opposite residential apartments. This site is suitable for a business with limited hours of operation and walk-in customers. Fast food establishments, they attract car driving customers. The place for such an operation is in a shopping centre or the middle of an industrial estate where the location is actually an endpoint destination rather than a busy intersection. And the negative associations with a fast food establishment adjacent to residential apartments, all of the noise, pollution, loitering, environmental impacts, etc., which we've heard about, this is going to negatively change the whole area, lower the tone of the area and discourage higher end businesses from investing and from people buying into the area. There are just no benefit. The community has rejected it, and the site would better serve the community if a local small to medium-sized business, such as the one that's already there, is allowed to thrive there, providing jobs and keeping up the tone of the area. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Sian. You certainly timed yours very well because it came up to the minute. So thanks, everybody. Now that's all the speakers, the objective speakers that I have on my list, but I'll just double back just to make sure some of the people who weren't present earlier, in case they've come back. I can't see them on my list though. Jerome Eckerman, are you around? Doesn't look like you're online. Okay. And the other person was David Corbinow. David, are you online? No. Okay. I'll now move on to the applicants and their representatives. So I have on my list Luke Hammond, who's the development manager of McDonald's, Rachel McNeil, the planner with SLR Consulting, and Tim Rogers, who's the traffic expert with Colston Budd Rogers. I might ask Luke if you could coordinate your responses at your end across your team. So we're now open for you to provide a response if you wish, or we could go straight to questions from the panel. It's up to you.
Thanks, David. Yeah, if it's okay, I'll speak first on behalf of the company, and then I'll defer to Rachel and Tim, our consultants, that will address some of the more specific issues that have been raised today.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thanks. So, as you mentioned, my name's Luke Hammond. I'm a development manager for McDonald's, and my attendance here today is to sort of give you guys some context into the company, the face of the company, and provide you some insight on probably less of the technical issues that have been raised today, which seem to be primarily focused around traffic and some town planning issues, which my consultants will speak more about. But I'd like to provide a bit of a face to McDonald's, and sort of mention that a couple of the respondents, for example, Justin mentioned previously that there's no public benefit to having a McDonald's within the area, which I would probably disagree with. We've been in Australia for over 50 years. We've supported 46,000 community members through our Ronald House charity. Even though we are an American business, we spend over $1 billion locally on Australian produce from Aussie suppliers. And many of you might not actually know that even though we are obviously, there's no hiding the fact that we're a large multinational company, that 85% of our stores are actually owned by Australians. So they're franchisees that buy into the business and run the stores themselves. And locally, we provide hundreds of jobs. So our stores, while they might seem small, actually have quite a large amount of crew behind them. For example, if the Balgowlah store were approved, the investment from McDonald's would be in the vicinity of $4 to $5 million that would be spent locally constructing the store. Then locally, we'd be employing over 100 people to work at the store, and many of those are the youth. And we sort of pride ourselves on the quality of the applicants that we bring up through the McDonald's system and how they then contribute into the wider workforce when they eventually leave with McDonald's or hopefully stay with us as well. So look, I don't have much more to add other than that, because I think that was my intention, was to sort of show you guys that we're not just here to take advantage of every conceivable gap and take advantage of every conceivable dollar. We are part of the community as well. That's all from me, David. If it's all right, I'll throw it over to Rachel, who's sitting here with me as well, and she can talk to more of the planning issues.
Certainly.
Thanks, Luke. And we'll catch up there. Thank you for the time today, panel members and the community. Look, we know council have cited sort of 6 reasons for refusal here today. This sort of translates, I think, to 3 core concerns, which is traffic, as we've heard about, acoustic concerns and obviously the public interest. In terms of, I'm just going to touch on acoustic amenity first and foremost. Council's report states that acoustic amenity will be impacted given the subject site's proximity to residential receivers. These have been assessed by the noise assessment, which was done for the DA. The noise impact assessment demonstrates that the operation can actually trade 24/7 and be compliant with the project noise trigger levels for the site. This is in accordance with the noise policy for industry. There's no acoustic requirement or justification to restrict trade beyond the 24/7 that was proposed. Council also requested trade be amended to 6 a.m. till 11 p.m. as part of our sort of ongoing discussions during the assessment. The nighttime criteria for noise assessment commences at 10 p.m. So in requesting 11 p.m. close, Council have inadvertently acknowledged that they agree with the findings of the noise assessment. Notwithstanding, McDonald's appreciates the community position here, hence why the reduced trading hours were proposed. At the end of the day, the impacts associated with acoustics are no grounds for refusal. As we've said, Tim Rogers is on the line. He's going to talk, I guess, to further details around traffic. But from a planning perspective, I would just ask that the panel consider the impacts of this development only. Tim will speak to his assessment that's carried out, but we understand congestion's an issue. There's no denying that. But we have heard about the impacts of Bunnings, of Aldi, of Woolworths. This assessment needs to consider the impacts of development of McDonald's coming into this site, not these other businesses that are already approved. In relation just to a couple of things that have been brought up today by the community members, I asked the panel just to remember, I guess, the matters for consideration under section 4.15 of the EP&A Act in terms of site suitability, output of what the McDonald's actually sells, property values. We need to respect, what the Act requires us to consider. In relation to antisocial behaviour, a plan of management was lodged with the DA that deals with the McDonald's business and how they deal with those types of things in terms of CCTV requirements, lighting on site, instant reporting for staff training protocols. It also dealt with sort of litter management and how that's proposed in terms of litter management plans to be dealt with around the site. That's probably enough from me today. I think the council's report is obviously a robust assessment of the situation here. I'm happy to take any questions, and if it's all right with you, David, I'll hand over to Tim to talk specifically to the traffic.
I think if we go directly to Tim now, and then I'll open up for the panel's questions.
Thank you, David. Thank you, panel members and the community, for the opportunity to speak this afternoon on this development. It appears there's a lot of misleading information out there in terms of traffic impacts that unfortunately are leading to some incorrect conclusions. Firstly, let me say that no roundabout was proposed at the intersection of Hay Street and Rosebery Street as part of this development. It was simply an exercise that council asked us to examine. We pointed out to them at the time that we did not think a roundabout was appropriate at this location, and when we prepared a concept design for it, that was confirmed, and council ultimately agreed with that position. So anything to do with that roundabout is completely misleading as part of this development. Secondly, in relation to the median that's proposed in Rosebery Street, again, that was a council request to provide that median. We can see some benefit in it. We would prefer not to have the median because it results in additional trips and additional traffic through the roundabout at Rosebery Street and Kenneth Road. In terms of the traffic assessment that we've undertaken, it would appear Mr McLaren and his assessment has not seen the latest report that was provided to council, which certainly had an increased level of traffic generation, detailed exactly how the model had been calibrated against existing queues, and how the traffic effects of the proposed development relative to the existing conditions show that there was minimal traffic impacts from the proposed McDonald's. We've always acknowledged, as Rachel has said, and as the community has said, there are traffic issues in the area. Our surveys and our calibration of the model showed that there were queues that extended along Kenneth Road between almost back to Cook Road and on Rosebery Street back to the Hay Street intersection. So there's no doubt there is traffic congestion in the area, and that's been taken into account, and our model has calibrated against those queues. In terms of the intersection of Condamine Street and Kenneth Road, again, we've calibrated
Sorry,
the model.
Kim, can I just stop you for a second? There's someone else who's got them, they've just disappeared. There's some background noise from somebody else that had their microphone on, but start again, please.
In terms of the intersection of Condamine Street and Kenneth Road, we've calibrated the model against the observed cycle times. We've sat there with a video. We've looked at the cycles over an hour. We've measured the queue length, the cycle times for each phase, and the way it operates. And that's the way the model has been calibrated. So this has gone through a rigorous traffic assessment of modelling the traffic effects of the proposed development. What ultimately, and we've used a traffic assessment of 180 vehicles in the afternoon peak hour and 260 vehicles an hour in the weekend peak hour, which are consistent with the Transport for New South Wales guidelines. Notwithstanding, we think they are substantial overestimates. Given the constraints in the road network, it means that there's going to be less likelihood of people making a destination trip because of the congestion, and also the fact this is not a site that's located on a main road. And has limited access because of the median in Rosebery Street, which limits access to left in, left out. Ultimately, what we've found from the traffic assessment is that, yes, it will have an impact, there's no doubt about that, but it's minimal. What we found was that the average queues in both Rosebery Street and Kenneth Road increased by 1 to 2 vehicles in the peak periods as a result of this development. Because what you have is a situation where the majority of traffic that would access this McDonald's in peak periods would be traffic that's already in the road network. There is quite high volumes of traffic both on Rosebery Street and Kenneth Road, and that's where the people who are going to go to this McDonald's will come from at those peak times. It's highly unlikely that people will travel to a McDonald's to get a hamburger in an area where there's a congested road network. It's a discretionary trip, and people adjust their behaviour to meet the circumstances. It's a pretty recognised transport impact. Finally, just in relation to the last comment that Mr. McLaren made, is this comparable to the one at East Lakes? As he knows, I was familiar with that one at East Lakes as well. That site had access between the roundabout and the traffic signals. That was the main issue with that particular development. This issue is not comparable to that because it does not have the same access arrangements. I'm happy to take any questions from the panel in relation to traffic, and I'm expecting you probably got one or two.
Thank you very much. I'll now open up.
Sorry, David, can I just interrupt you? It's Liv. We've got David on the line now, one of the speakers that we couldn't get a hold of before. He's joined the meeting.
Okay.
If you wanted to give him a chance to speak, yeah. Yeah,
that's David Corbinell.
Hello.
Hi, David. I know that you're coming online now. Would you able to just give a quick presentation, 3 minutes maximum, please, if you wish?
Of course. I was there earlier, so apologies. I just had to jump into a different meeting. Thank you for the time, and thank you to Sarah Garland also for notifying the community of the project through signage on that building block. In short, my point is mainly more a question. What is the value to the community? We've already got a fast food burger outlet. Granted, it serves chicken burgers, and the only difference with the McDonald's is a beef burger, but it seems like a lot of hoo-ha for that. Especially considering there's a McDonald's at the mall, one in Brookvale. It seems a little excessive for a semi-residential side street, but I won't go into that detail. We talk a lot about traffic, but I think that site could be better used for a daycare or additional housing. There's already quite a lot of housing pressure in that particular area. And if an Australian company like King Living can acquire a site on Condamine Street that's more appropriate, I don't understand how an international company like McDonald's can't find a similar or better suited site. Thank you very much for the time. That's my point.
Thank you. Thank you very much, David. I'll now move back to the panel if I could. So panel members, do you have any questions of either the applicants or those who made presentations opposing the development? Can you just put your hands up? So Phil, I'll take you first, please. The microphone needs to be on, Phil.
Thanks, Dave. I admit to being a bit confused on the traffic, particularly the comments made by Tim and Craig about incremental traffic. They're clearly not consistent, and I wonder if we could go back to Tim and Craig and just get them to comment on that specific issue, please.
Okay, I might take Tim first, then Craig second. Tim, your microphone's, it's now on. Go first.
Yeah, look, I don't want to disadvantage Mr. McLaren. He and I are well known to each other. It would appear he has not seen our latest report dated 17th of June and not made a comment on it. And that would appear to be the biggest difference between why we have different conclusions.
Okay, thank you. Craig McLaren, are you still online? Yes.
Yes, yes. Yes, I certainly would agree that I haven't seen the 17th. Our last assessment was on the 13th of June, which we thought at the time was a revised modelling assessment that was sent to us post the previous application, so with the median in place. However, I guess the issue still remains in relation to a transparent calibration report, video and data set that would be useful in understanding, because our video data set calibration report is freely available, whereas I can't say that about Tim's model, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. Bill, do you have any supplementary questions on that line?
I'm still confused about what the truth is, and that's what I'm trying to understand as a simple community member. I'm confused about the two different statements, and it's difficult to draw a conclusion on it.
And would there any other questions you would like to ask the two traffic experts that might help you?
I understand. Did either of you do simple surveys of numbers at certain times at that particular location?
Yes, the answer is we did video surveys of both the intersections of Condamine Street and Kenneth Road and the intersections of Rosebery Street and Kenneth Road and Hay Street and Rosebery Street in the weekday afternoon and weekend peak periods, and we measured queue lengths both along on Rosebery Street south of the roundabout and on Kenneth Road from Condamine Street and from Rosebery Street, so back through the roundabout.
And we have actually undertaken similar surveys at the, and I think they were over 3-hour periods.
As well ours.
3 and 4 hours in relation to both the, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yes. Sorry, the camera went off. In relation to both the weekday afternoon and the Saturday lunchtime period, our surveys also included videos of the queue lengths of down Kenneth Street. So we actually had extra cameras of queues within Condamine Street and down Kenneth Road through the roundabout there at Rosebery. So all of that data is freely available, and we have engineers here who sit down and pour through each video. And we slow them down, we speed them up, we look at the queuing. I'm not sure if we can say the same in relation to the data that's provided by Mr. Rogers. We certainly have not seen the most recent data set, but because it's such a key issue, the calibration requires video data in order to look at each sequence. And so phase sequencing at the traffic signals and also the queues that emanate on each approach in Condamine and also along Kenneth, and then through the roundabout are vital in relation to preparing a calibration report. So someone standing there and observing queues can't be tested.
Right, let me just clarify that. We did
sorry,
exactly
just let me finish.
We
sorry,
just did
Tim.
exactly the same as you.
Sorry, Tim, just let Craig finish and then I'll ask you to clarify it, please.
Yeah, someone sitting there and just recording a queue on a piece of paper can't be independently and robustly tested when you can clearly video those queues and they can be robustly tested because they're transparently available.
Okay, Tim, would you like to
my
respond?
response is was just to clarify that it's exactly what we did. We videoed the queues both on Rosebery Street, south of the roundabout, and on Kenneth Road, both from the intersection of Condamine Street and back from the roundabout at Rosebery Street. So the video is exactly the same as what you did, Craig. We recorded them on video and then went back through them to record the queue lengths. So I don't want to be there any misleading that we just made observations. We did exactly the same process as you did.
Well, it'll be useful having that information provided.
Okay, thank you. Bill, any more questions?
Just one last question.
Sure.
Sorry. Tim, on what basis do you make the claim that there will be minimal incremental traffic with the McDonald's? I find that hard to understand. I mean, when I observe other locations, it's not minimal traffic. Now, I know you said there'll be a lot of people in the traffic, but I just find that hard to understand. Where do you actually have that? What evidence do you have for that claim?
Well, we've set up a computer model that we've validated and calibrated against existing conditions, then put development traffic into that model to find out what the increase in queue lengths are and what the change in the levels of service or and performance of the intersections. And the output was that the average queues increased by 1 to 2 vehicles on the 2 key approaches. And also the increases in average delays were 1 or 2 seconds. There's no change in level of service. So therefore, the conclusion is that it has minimal impact on the operation of the surrounding road network.
Okay, thank you.
Now, we don't dispute that there is congestion in the area, and this development is not going to make it any better. I'm not going to sit here and say that to you. It does have an impact, but that impact is not significant.
Okay, thank you. Other panel members, any questions? Just put your hand up if you do have some. Panel members. Cara?
Thank you, David. Thanks, David. My question just relates to understanding the traffic impacts, the related traffic impacts that may occur on the Rosebery-Balgowlah Road roundabout. So at the other end, I understand that the Hayes Street roundabout was a concept council asked you to test, and it's not part of the proposal. But in terms of then patrons approaching McDonald's from the north and travelling through the Kenneth Road or Rosebery Street roundabout and then being restricted from being able to turn into McDonald's because of the median strip, so left in, left out proposal, I'm assuming they then travel down Rosebery Street to the Balgowlah Road and Rosebery Street roundabout, turn there and then loop back to be able to go left into McDonald's. So I'm just wondering if you could explain the traffic modelling or impact assessment that may have been undertaken in relation to that activity due to the proposed median.
Yes, in terms of the proposed median, you're quite correct that traffic coming from the north cannot directly access McDonald's because of the median. And that was the reason that council suggested the roundabout at the intersection of Hay Street and Rosebery Street. Particularly for traffic coming from the north on Condamine Street, that would not come down and turn left into Kenneth Road and then right into Rosebery Street to access the site. It would continue down Kenneth Road, Condamine Street, then turn left into Hay Street and then come up from the south by the Hay Street, Rosebery Street intersection. So it would not go through that intersection of Balgowlah and Rosebery Street. Again, traffic coming from the east on Kenneth Road, a more appropriate route for that is to travel west along Kenneth Road, turn left into Condamine Street, and again come down and turn left into Hay Street and then access the site from the south. That's a quicker route. The traffic coming from the south would obviously come from Balgowlah Road to the east or west and then come up through Rosebery Street. So there is a minor increase in traffic. Again, because the majority of traffic is coming from the north, the amount of traffic passing through that Balgowlah Road, Rosebery Street and roundabout was minimal. And again, council didn't request us to analyse it except for that reason. So we haven't done any analysis of it, but I can tell you that the amount of traffic that would come through it would be minor, in the order of about 20 vehicles an hour coming through that intersection from the south.
Doesn't that assume that people know that there's a median there, that obviously locals will get to know there's a median there and you can't turn right into McDonald's, but it will be based, I assume, on that particular assumption that you don't just have people travelling from the northern part of the beaches coming along Condamine Street, seeing that there's a McDonald's in that street, and then entering the Kenneth Road and Rosebery Street roundabout, and then figuring out that they can't turn right.
Yeah.
How do you apply an assumption to the traffic modelling in that respect? Of not that what proportion would you then base on people not being aware there's a median and you can't turn right, and the resultant impacts of traffic flow further down the street?
Look, there'll be a settling in period like there is with anything, but once it settles down, that's the way people work out the quickest way to get there, and the quickest way to get there, if you're coming from the north, is to continue down Condamine Street and turn left into Hay Street.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, any other questions from panel members at all?
No, not from me, thanks.
No. I had a question. This is for Rachel. Just in relation to the community crime risk assessment, a number of the people today, the presenters, have referred to some incidents that have happened, and particularly in relation to the Beeline bus car park and stop there. I noticed in the crime risk assessment, it has quite a detailed assessment of the site and the proposed buildings, and that sort of thing goes into quite a deal of detail there, which is good. But there's no contextual analysis or no indication that the author has spoken to the local police or proprietors of premises around there and those sorts of local intelligence types information. Can you assist me a little bit there, please?
Yeah, no problems. I think, yes, you're correct. Our assessment looks at the impact of the McDonald's coming in and the SEPCHED principles associated with the McDonald's. We obviously can't control the behaviours of other people on other premises. What we can do is control and try and manage what happens on our own site. In our experience, having a McDonald's trading in an area that has positive impacts in terms of passive surveillance and actually bringing lighting and people working and actually having an active area in a location that might otherwise have some other problems caused by other businesses in the area. To your point, in terms of the police, we haven't spoken to the police. That was done as part of the development assessment. And I think as per council's report, the local area command didn't provide a comment back to council as part of their assessment, which is captured in council's report.
Yes, actually they have now. We've received one within the last day or so from the police. Okay, so all right, so yeah, so you looked at the development, and I take what your point about the impact of a McDonald's on an area, but context wasn't part of the assessment. No, actually, and I must say I was a bit surprised by that, because normally with those crime risk assessments they do look at context and the boss car statistics and that sort of thing, which surprised me a little bit.
It hasn't been asked by council either during their assessment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Any other queries or questions from panel members?
No.
Okay, now I notice a couple of community members have got their hands raised in terms of if you'd like to ask something. At this point, all we can deal with, if you've got a question of me in terms of process, I'm happy to take those, but in terms of entering into a debate about the development or raising points about that, I can't take them at this point. You've had your opportunity. So, Sian, I noticed you've got your hands up there. Did you have any question of me in terms of process and so
on? Not really. It was more about the, you know, the control of crime through CCTV measures and the traffic, because obviously, if there's a point in putting it there, then you know,
okay.
It's going to increase
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I noticed Justin has also put his hand up. Justin.
Oh yeah, sorry. There weren't questions. They were just responses to untrue statements made by McDonald's. So
okay, no, thank you. Okay, so there being nothing else, I'd like now to close the matter. Can I thank you all for everyone being so articulate and sticking to time? That makes life a lot easier for everyone.
Sorry, David, I've got my hand up and I'm not. It was just more about the process. I understand that there was one submission put in that we responded to, and then there was an amended one, which was about the roundabout and that which we also responded to. But it sounds like in this discussion that there was a third submission that the community haven't been given a chance to respond to. So I just wanted to try and figure out what was going on there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, okay. We'll just take that on notice and we'll have to consider it in the process, but thank you. Okay, anything else? Okay, can I once again thank you all very much. As I mentioned, we will be determining the matter later on in closed session, later on today, and it'll be a few days before the minutes of the meeting become publicly available for you to see. So I'd now like to close the public component of the Northern Beaches Local Planning Panel. Thank you very much. Can I ask panel members to stay online, please? And everyone else to log off, you wouldn't mind. Thank you.